Hey, what's up, guys? This is Zeke, producer here at Warriors and Wildmen. I'm not normally behind the mic, but you know what? We've got a special Thanksgiving episode to share with all of you guys with clips from some of the past 75 episodes that we have here on this channel. And you know what? We really are thankful for each one of you for sharing with your friends and subscribing and listening to the podcast, emailing us and telling us what you think of it. Yeah, we really are thankful for you. So hope you enjoy the podcast.
Hey guys, Doug Giles here. It's Warriors, Rich.
And Wildman, what's happening, Big Doug? Whoa, let's do this thing.
Look at that little safari cigar action.
Rub it in, rub it in.
It's a beautiful little box press Maduro wrap sandwich of love and
I smoked
tastiness.
one last night, by the way.
Woo, how many you got left, man?
I don't know. I'd have to check. It's classified. Never share those types of things.
We got a huge shipment coming in, hopefully any day now. And
You see that
You
see the oldest living combat vet, 112, just turned 112 the other day.
Yes, he lives here in Austin.
Smokes a dozen cigars a day, Doug.
And drinks whiskey.
A dozen. I just read it in Cigar Aficionado the other day, and he literally smokes 12 cigars a day.
Right. So did George Burns, and I like what Burns, this guy asked him when, I think he was like 100 or something. He goes, so George, what does your doctor think about you smoking, so many cigars every day? And he goes, I don't know. He died 30 years ago.
Yeah, that's right. I'll tell you, it's interesting because when I watch TV, which I try not to because it makes me mad. Everything makes me mad. But TV makes me mad. I watch commercials, and even in every commercial you see today, the man is a stupid idiot, and then the woman comes in, and she's so smart and barely tolerates this blundering fool who stumbles through life, like we're a bunch of Forrest Gumps or something. Yeah. And that stuff makes me mad. And because it's not just a commercial, it's not funny. If it was one commercial, that'd be funny. But it's a theme in television, in movies, TV shows, commercials, everything that we see. The women are smart, they're awesome, men are stupid, we're a bunch of brutes, we're animals, and so it's upsetting God's order. And that's why I think Warriors and Wildmen is super important, and I think it's needed.
Well, not only is the man stupid, and the woman is the healer, to come and lead him through his testosterone chaos, but also the kids. It's like the kid's smarter than the dad. The dad has no vision, no direction, no backbone. He's just kind of there. He's a sperm donor and stuff. And bro, I live in Texas, and you've met some of my buddies. My male friends, they're not visionless, they're not directionless. Again, man, they take care of business, they protect their family, they provide for their family, and and they might not do heroic stuff that you see on the movie, but they stand for truth in a day of lies, hype, and spin. And I don't even know who Hollywood is talking about when they portray guys as these pitiful doofuses, except, of course, for the young men, the millennials. Those guys, I think they have problems because they haven't been properly fathered. They don't have guys that carry classical masculine traits around them who provide a blueprint, a pattern for them to sail by. So they pick up on the cultural crap and they buy into this metrosexual hipster goofiness and these effeminate qualities. That's why I wrote the book Pussification, man, because I'm seeing the effeminization of the American male, the Western male, pretty much like no other time on the planet. And here at Warriors and Wildmen, we're here to crush that nonsense. We're here to help young people, in particular, young men, ford through this cultural morass and come out, looking like kind of a Jesus version of Clint Eastwood or Steve McQueen or John Wayne or something like that.
And I think it's important to note, too, because people, look, if you're watching this and you've been following Warriors and Wildmen, you know what we think about a lot of topics. And one of the things that I think is interesting is that somebody might hear this for the first time and think, well, they're against women. They're putting women down. We absolutely are not against women. We support women being women. We support them being who God made them to be incredible, amazing, awesome. We want men to be men. Women can be women. We want men to be men.
Well, I was thinking, contemplating the craziness that's been going on since Trump got elected. I thought to myself, I haven't seen this in my lifetime. You have to go back all the way to 1860, when, of course, an outsider, a Republican named Lincoln, was elected, and all hell broke loose. And the rival party, just happened to be the Democratic Party, would not accept the result. In the North, the Democrats were calling for Lincoln to be killed, which happened later. In the South, the Democrats were ready to break up the country. So we've been here before. And of course, that one didn't end well. It led to a civil war. The reason I call this movie Death of a Nation shows what's at stake. But I think in this case, a civil war can be averted if we are well informed and if we are courageous.
Wow. So it's obvious that people are so crazy. The divide's crazy. It's not like something like we're disagreeing on a couple little things. And we were talking about civil war recently, and it's so harshly divided. I mean, how do we avoid that?
Well, American politics used to be an argument about two different views of the world, but the argument was a gentleman's argument. I mean, if I think back to the Reagan era, there was certainly a lot of contentiousness, but there was also a sense that we agreed that we both wanted America to be strong, we both wanted America to be prosperous. We might disagree about how the pie should be carved, but that we wanted a pie and a big pie, and none of this was really at issue. I think what's happened is the Democratic Party has become gangsterized since Obama and Hillary, and they have been using the weapons of the state against their opponents. Yeah. And the Democrats have now become, you may say, the party of the police state, the party of illegal immigration. I mean, who thought that a major political party would become an advocate for lawlessness and a champion of breaking the law, defenders of these Antifa thugs roaming the campuses and looting in major cities? All this craziness has been going on, and it's been going on supported and cheered by the media. So Trump has become a major inconvenience to all of this, and this is why the other side is going crazy.
Wow.
Hey, Dinesh, were you shocked when you found out that you were a fascist and a racist and a white supremacist?
Well,
because I was stunned. No one who sees Death of a Nation will think about those terms in the same way again. I mean, just to give you a simple example of a kind of a bombshell in the movie, I point out that all the leading white nationalists in the country have a deep background on the left. I have chapter and verse in my book, Death of a Nation. In the movie, I bring on the poster boy of white supremacy, this guy named Richard Spencer, who has been consistently described as a right-wing white supremacist. But when you watch the movie talking out of his own mouth, it becomes really obvious that here's a guy who's on the left, and the media has been giving us a completely fake narrative of Charlottesville, of white supremacy, and of the true meaning of fascism. Rich?
Yeah, I have a question on that, on racism. I was just on Twitter with a black pastor, and he has a small church of about 25,000 people, and we were private messaging each other, and he said there are two types of racists: those who are racist and know it, and those who are racist who don't. And every comment that he made to me that we disagreed was basically, and you know why you feel like that. So how are we supposed to respond when everything, like, I don't like Obama, and I told him I didn't like Obama because he's a raging liberal and a socialist, and I oppose those things. As a Christian, I oppose the things that he stands for. I don't stand for killing babies. That's how it goes. And he's convinced that it's because he's black.
Right, and the reason that he thinks that is because he has bought into a complete fake narrative. Now, the fake narrative is that the Democrats might have been the party of racism at one time, but the two parties switched sides. That somehow Richard Nixon, with his typical Nixonian cunning, went to the Deep South and convinced the racist Dixiecrats to become Republicans. That is the whole underlying basis for the idea that today conservatives and Christians are under suspicion for bigotry. But that narrative is itself fake because, number one, no one has ever uncovered a racist campaign statement by Nixon. Number two, Nixon didn't even campaign in the Deep South, which was won not by Nixon, but by George Wallace, the Democratic segregationist. Number three, Nixon is the inventor of affirmative action. This is the guy who implemented America's first affirmative action program. So does that sound like a guy who's campaigning for the Deep South racist vote? Nonsense. And number four, in the movie, I put up the names of all the racist Dixiecrats. It's about 100 of them. And I count how many of them moved to the Republican Party. And the correct answer is two. One in the House, Albert Watson, and one in the Senate, Strom Thurmond, and every other racist Dixiecrat lived and stayed and died in the Democratic Party.
Wow.
Hey Dinesh, I've got grandkids now. I'm looking in the crystal ball in regards to their education, and because I love my grandkids, I'm going to earnestly exhort my daughter Hannah to make certain that she never puts them in a public school, because all the stuff that you just rattled off that's in Death of the Nation, and about the democratic strongholds of racism and violence and socialism, that's not taught there. They're being taught that the left is yummy, the right is evil, and all the stuff that you just went through, you'd hear nary a peep in the typical public schoolroom.
Yeah, even on the fascism stuff, a lot of this business didn't start with Trump. It goes back to World War II. Well, before World War II, fascism was recognized to be on the left. Hitler knew it was on the left. The Nazi newspapers were all praising FDR in the 30s. I quote from this in the movie. FDR and Mussolini formed a mutual admiration society. They were both saying wonderful things about each other. Mussolini actually reviewed FDR's book in an Italian magazine, and he says, I'm giving him the highest compliment I can give him. He's a fascist. This is Mussolini talking about FDR. And so all of this stuff, it's been swept under the rug. By whom? By the progressives who came to power in the 40s and 50s and began to dominate academia and the media. So they were able to control this narrative, and blowing the whistle on those guys and bringing to light this secret history that they can't refute any of it. It's all there in the historical record. It's all documented. But they've been able to keep it from being on the History Channel, and they've kept it out of Wikipedia. And so a lot of young people, even in private colleges, don't know this stuff.
Yeah, it's sad, man. Richard.
Yeah, I have another question is, why is it that they're targeting Christians? Why are they so opposed to Christianity and they're not consistent? One of my problems is that they're never consistent. They support Islam because they're exclusive, and they support them even though they're exclusive and destructive, but then they're against Christians.
Someone once told me that behind every double standard is a single standard that refuses to disclose itself. No one is truly inconsistent. When we think about the guys who championed the Berkeley free speech movement in the 60s, it's very obvious that what they meant at that time was free speech for us. They didn't care about free speech in general. So that once they came to power, they were happy to suppress somebody else's speech. So they're only inconsistent if you assume that they believe in the principle of free speech and are applying it in somehow an inconsistent way. But no, they don't really believe in it. They're fighting to give themselves room to operate, but they're perfectly happy to constrain the other guy.
See, that makes sense, because they're trying to take away free speech, take away the right to bear arms, and ultimately the freedom of religion. I mean, they're completely against the Constitution. What's happening?
Well, their alliance with radical Islam is purely tactical. They know that the radical Muslims are targeting the same principles that they oppose in another context. So this is a case where the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and multiculturalism, which has no room, let's say, for evangelical Christians. It has no room for conservatives. It certainly has no room for white nationalism. It has room for Latino nationalism and every other type, black nationalism, every other type of nationalism. So what's going on here is ultimately the Democrats, they're trying to create, I call them ethnic plantations. Now, of course, in the old days, the Democrats were all about the slave plantation, which was an ethnic plantation, but for one group, blacks. Now they want not just ghettos for blacks, they want barrios for Latinos, they have reservations for Native Americans. They want to take every ethnic group and create some intergenerational system of dependency.
Wow.
is how the whole party is organized. That's their organizational principle.
Wow. And then people are stuck in the past. I heard a guy, I can't remember his name, but I heard a guy talking about that. And he said the problem is that a lot of people are brain chained to a field on a plantation that they never worked in. And so because they're stuck in that mindset, they can't move ahead. And I think that's the problem that I'm having, is not recognizing that there are some problems, in racism in America, some things that need to be addressed. But we have to turn and start focusing on where we're going. How can we fix some things?
Yeah, the real institutional racism in America is on the Democratic plantation. And the plantation is maintained by a certain type of dependency and fear. People think, wow, if I leave the plantation, where would I go? There's a very insightful comment that Mary Chestnut, she was the wife of a Democratic senator, James Chestnut, and she wrote a diary during the Civil War. And she says, wait a minute, everyone keeps telling me about how the slaves hate to be on the plantation and they ready to leave. She goes, well, all our men are fighting on the front. Why don't the slaves leave the plantation right now? I can't keep them. We only have women and children here, but the slaves don't leave. And the point she's making, which is a very profound point, is that there is such a thing as mental enslavement. There is such a thing that you're so scared and the only life you know is this, that you don't even know how you could survive outside of that. And I think that this is the principle of fear on which the Democrats maintain their ethnic plantations today.
Hey, Dinesh, when you were ramping up for this movie, did you get any opposition from the evangelical Never Trumpkins?
Well, those guys are, I think are kind of missing the point of this whole political fight. I mean, American politics has always fought in teams. And these are guys who are pining for the Reagan era. They basically want a different kind of politics. And just to a certain point, I sympathize with them. I kind of came of age with many of these dudes. And yes, we'd like to have a politics that's more. But the problem is that when the other party has become gangsterized, how do you stop them from doing what they're doing to you if you don't do it to them? Lincoln understood this perfectly well. Lincoln realized that the kind of stuff that was going on, once the atmosphere changed, even though Lincoln was a very mild-mannered and moderate guy, he had to become extremely tough because he knew the Democrats were out of control.
So as a foreign-born American, it's got to tick you off, man, to see groups like La Raza and these other splinter groups and little ghettos that Rich was talking about whiz on America. What's great to you about this experiment in self-governance?
Well, to me, speaking not even in a philosophical way, I mean, when I first came to America, I was struck by the fact that, look, I've seen countries where wealthy people could have a good life, but I'd never seen a country before where the ordinary guy has such a good chance have a good life. So many ladders of opportunities in which you can be the architect of your own destiny, not just become well off, but live the kind of life that you want for yourself. I mean, look at my career. I'm doing the kind of things I can in this country that I couldn't possibly do just about anywhere else. So all of this became really obvious to me. And then I realized that there was a politics behind it, the politics of the American founding. It wasn't an accident that America became this way. It was actually designed to be this way. And I also realized that there's a big fight about this formula, you might say, and that as a conservative, all I'm doing is conserving the principles of the American founding. In other words, conserving those ladders of opportunity that made the kind of life that I enjoy in America today possible.
Hey, Dinesh, we got you for about another 90 seconds. Why should the Warriors and Wildmen subscriber take their hard-earned dollars and lay it down to watch your movie?
Well, I make the movies and I do books that go with the movies, and they kind of go together. The book is sort of the chapter and verse. It has all the documentation that you need. The movie is a combination of an emotional narrative and something that is inspiring and motivating. I mean, it is not uncommon anywhere in the country. It doesn't matter if it's red or blue America. When people see the movie, the whole audience will stand up and applaud at the end. Think of how rare that is in a theater to see that happen. We have audience ratings of over 90%. It's a fun movie to watch, and when you leave, you're like, wow, there's a whole bunch of stuff in there I had no idea about. And then the book gives you the documentation for why it's all true.
Dinesh D'Souza, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, Dinesh, thanks for being on Warriors and Wildmen. The movie, again, Death of a Nation. King David, when he was a frickin' teenager, man.
Yep.
He's a little ruddy, freckle-faced kid taking care of his dad's sheep. which is not a job you'd want to put on Facebook.
Nope.
But it was what was given to him. He was faithful in that which belonged to somebody else. And when, everybody's like, well, David killed Goliath, and he had confidence that all this Saul and his henchmen didn't have. Yeah, absolutely. And he got that confidence from defeating a lion and a bear, which I have huge problems believing that. Do I believe it happened? Yeah. But I've hunted lion and I've hunted bear, and I'm telling you what, man, and I've seen them fight each other. I would I would not want to tangle with an African lion. I would not want to tangle with whatever bears they had there in Israel at that time, because it's tooth, fang, and claws, balls, jaws.
Yeah, but I think that brings up a point that's important to Christians. If you're a person that doesn't believe in God, you're an athlete, you just believe you're the best. You may or may not be the best. The awesome thing about that is that David and our confidence is in two things. In Christ in us, right. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, right? But then also in the ability and talents that he gave us. So it's not always, like if you're doing push-ups, it's not Jesus is giving me the power to do push-ups right now. Jesus gave me the power and the ability to do push-ups right now. So I'm confident in God. I'm also confident in the gifts and talents that he gave me. So that's confidence for the kingdom. It's not some big ego. So although some people get huge heads.
Well, they thought David was acting in pride. When he heard what they had been hearing for 40 days and 40 nights, he heard it one time. And he says, who is this uncircumcised Philistine that taunts the armies of the living God? Yep. When David looked at Goliath, man, he didn't see Goliath. He saw infinity. He saw God behind Goliath. And he's like, I'm going to take his head off.
Yeah, David's confidence was in that God wanted Goliath defeated, that God had called him to defeat Goliath, and in his ability to swing that stone. He didn't go and try to do some magical thing that he had never done before. Right. He trusted in God and the gift that he gave him that he had developed and worked on, but then he knew that God gave him the victory. So he had confidence in God, but he had confidence in the talents that he also gave him.
Yeah. But let's talk about something that I find...
Guns?
Yeah, I've got my... Hold on, let me pull mine out.
Look, this is my Derringer. This is my Bond Arms Derringer that shoots Colt 45 long. And you know what else it shoots,
Beautiful.
Doug? You know what else it shoots?
410 shells.
410 shotgun shells with 6 copper discs, anti-personnel. You don't want none of this bad boy right here. This will wreck your world. You know what I carry this for, Doug?
Rattlesnakes.
Fun. Because I have a Glock 19 that's loaded, extra magazine, ready to roll. But you know what this is for? Good time. That's what this is for. This is because I like to party.
Well, I like the Derringer, man.
It's got the Texas Star on it.
Love the old school type weapons. Have you seen the Howdah? It's a 45. Nope. It's a double barrel shotgun that has rifled barrels, so it can fly under it being a proper pistol. But what it is, it's a sawed-off 410 shotgun.
Whoa.
And it's the coolest old school looking self-defense weapon. To me, I've born in the wrong day and time. I should have been born 100 years ago. I like all the old weapons. I like all that old stuff, man. And man, talk about a bedside rock your world apparatus. That
sounds like fun. Doesn't sound like that fun to shoot.
I think it's got I think it has 12 or 14-inch barrels. I don't know. But what a badass looking little weapon, man. Little sawed-off 410 shotgun. Get it for like $1,200, $1,300. And it's not going to be there for an extended gunfight, but you get some, meth head going to try to knock over your house, and your dog alerts you and wakes you up in the bedroom. You can grab the Howdah. And it's got, it's stuffed with some 3-inch 410 shells with, I don't know, maybe 4 shot or 6, because you don't want to over-penetrate into the kiddo's room. And then you blast that jackass into Dante's Easy Bake with the left and the right barrel. That's a good day, man. That's a good day.
You know what the problem with that is, like with my little Derringer here with the 410 shotgun shells, is it's got the anti-personnel 6 copper disc backed up by the BBs. it penetrates. I was shooting 25 yards with this thing, which it's not fun to shoot with the 410 shotgun shells. That's nasty. But it maintains a group about that big at 25 yards, 6 copper discs. That's a bad day right there, bro. That is a bad day. Look at this, Doug.
But see what I would do. Hey, you smoking? Hey, what I would do, man, is that I would lead with the shot, because your first barrel is going to be the close encounter of the strange kind. The second one's where you want to reach out and touch them, and that's where I'd come in with either the 6 pellets, or a slug or something like that. You want to go out a little longer on the second one because he's hauling ass in case you just clipped him in the gut or the butt.
I like that. I like to think I would use something fancy like that, but I'm probably going to pull out my plastic Glock and let
you gotta go old school, man. You got to go old school.
Well, you know what? I have a really beautiful Kimber 45. You've seen it. And I saw an ad one time, and it says, "Show your Kimber to your friends and your Glock to your enemy." My Kimber's too nice, man. I don't want to put a scratch on it. I don't want no blood on it. Right. I don't want to. The Glock, it's like a hammer. You just throw it over there.
Yeah, it's a tool.
Yeah. Hey, Regis, can I tell the story about when we were in Vegas and that guy came put his arm around you?
Yes.
We were in Vegas at the Safari convention, and afterwards we were hanging out, and I was there with Doug and Regis, and I don't know, there's a group of 10 people or so, Doug? Yeah. We were just sitting there talking, and this guy walks up with a fur coat, no shirt on, bald head, and puts his arm around Regis. And as soon as he does, I turn and I look at this guy because I'm thinking, this dude is getting ready to get the 5-knuckle shuffle. And when I do, I look, and Regis looks at me and smiles and shakes her head, "No, don't worry about it. I got it under control." And I thought, that's good stuff. She's not worried. And the guy actually, he was just out having fun with his friends, and he wasn't disrespectful to you at all, right? He was nice, and he walked away. But she wouldn't have been using jiu-jitsu that day because I'd have punched that guy so hard he'd have forgot his name.
Bro, I can't even hug Reed. She was over the other day for for Thanksgiving or something, and and I'm like, "Hey, Reed, how you doing?" And I could feel her about to leg sweep me and do some kind of Kato Green Hornet type Pink Panther. Remember that guy in Pink Panther that always follow him around, beat the crap out of him, come out of nowhere?
I'm always ready for him to put me in a headlock.
Yeah, but it's good. It's good to have the training and to be confident and aware of what's going on.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the goal.
To feel the situation. It's the intuition part that has to come in, and the confidence that you gain from the training that you do allows you to assess those situations. Don't allow them to accelerate, unexpectedly. Be aware of your surroundings, be prepared, be emotionally stable by all means, because if you're emotional, you get angry or you're afraid in that moment, you're not responding in a clear mindset. Good. And you won't be able to defend yourself properly.
But I think you also realized quickly in that situation, that guy wasn't trying to dominate you. He was being funny. He was just being a goofy guy.
If the Warriors Wildmen would like to have a soiree, you can invite Rich and I out to come speak afterwards or before, the night before, or maybe after the meeting. We'll sit with the brothers and smoke cigars and talk about God and life and American exceptionalism and all that good stuff that is usually the accompanying banter of every cigar session I've ever been a part of.
Yep, that's right. So go to warriorsandwildmen.com and subscribe. You got to go to our webpage, go there and subscribe. And on the top of the bar there, you'll see podcasts. You click on that, you'll find the format that you want to receive the podcast. Sign up for it. Stay connected with us, man. Find out what's going on.